South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
It's good!
and Flyers.
Oh, big save by Carter Hart.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on a Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Glad to have you guys on board the show here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live as always on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Of course, it's a Football Friday edition of the show here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can get in touch with the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. Also, you can chime in. 609-403-0973 is the text. We'll get to our picks and preview of the weekend. And I got to tell you guys, it's a very interesting weekend because remember, no Eagles on Sunday. They're on Monday night. So that changes probably some of your weekend plans. Also, think about this. If you are somebody who watches for fantasy football reasons or for betting reasons, now you're not as distracted with your team, but also the Phillies are technically still in a pennant race. So, this weekend probably changes a lot of things for you guys, but we still got to review some of the Eagles news because the Eagles news, it's not great, folks. Not great right now. So, Mailata, it looks like he is not going to play. Okay? We have all the information over at 973ESPN.com. The indications are, as of right now, that he will not play because he has a sprained MCL from practice. Not the game, practice, as Allen Iverson would say. So, the latest Eagles injury report breaks down like this. This came out just about a couple hours ago. Jordan Mailata was a DNP at practice. Now, he's really the only DNP at practice that is significant at this point. Boston Scott, Fletcher Cox, not practicing due to what's being called illness, or in today's world, we call it a non-COVID illness, right? So, as a result, you look at the Eagles and you say, okay, I have an idea of what can and can't happen because I know that two of the guys who didn't DNP, it's not like an injury. So I expect Fletcher to play Monday night. And I expect Boston Scott to be available. Jason Kelsey, limited practice with a foot issue. McLeod still limited practice. Davion Taylor still limited. J.J. Whiteside, full participant. Hassan Ridgeway, full participant back at practice. And so is Miles Sanders. So really the only two situations to keep an eye on are Rodney McLeod, who, as I've said before, I don't think Rodney plays until he's a full participant at practice. And then you look over at Fletcher. I expect him to play, like I said. But this Jordan Mailata situation, as we detailed over at 973ESPN.com, is a serious concern because you are going into a stretch of games. Remember, the Eagles have a stretch of 5 games coming up, starting Monday with the Cowboys, that can go sideways very quickly if things are not managed correctly. You should have won the 49ers game, but you lost. Now you got to go to Dallas. If you don't win in Dallas, you are at risk of a potential 6-game losing streak or losing 5 out of 6. Because then you come back home against the Chiefs, back on the road against the Panthers, back home on a short week against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then you got to hit the road again against the Raiders. The next time you play a team with a sub-500 record between Monday night and the next one, October 31st, the Lions. Every team coming up on your schedule are either undefeated or they are among the best in the league. Like Patrick Mahomes, he might not be undefeated right now, but he is a superstar, and Andy Reid is returning to Philadelphia. You know that is something that has to be in the back of people's minds. So this Cowboys game, in many ways, could make or break the Eagles season. And without Mailata, now you're asking Andre Dillard to go in there. And listen, we don't even know what Andre Dillard even looks like at this point. We have no idea. I certainly don't know. I haven't seen Mailata play a game in, 2 years at this point? Mailata has started only 4 games in his Eagles career because of injuries and other things. Remember, there was a COVID, contact tracing he was involved in at one point. Obviously, he tore his bicep. There's all these reasons why he has not been available. And this game is going to tell you a lot about who Dillard is. We heard coming in the training camp, well, Dillard, he's had a great camp and he looks great, but Mailata has played way better. If this is the best Dillard has ever looked, this better be the best Dillard has ever played, because you are going against a Cowboys D-line without DeMarcus Lawrence. He is their best defensive player. And as Todd Archer said earlier to Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, he covers the Cowboys for ESPN NFL Nation. I am telling you guys very, very clearly, they can move Micah Parsons up and down the line all they want, but it's not a guarantee at any cost that is going to generate their pass rush. Because look what happened last week against the Chargers. Did the Cowboys beat the Chargers, or did the Chargers beat themselves? You could argue the Chargers beat themselves because the Cowboys struggled to score, struggled to put points on the board. Remember, no Lyle Collins at right tackle, no Michael Gallup at receiver. Amari Cooper is coming into this game less than 100%. So, yeah, the Cowboys are a formidable team, but they're not an unbeatable team. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to guarantee you an Eagles win, because I'm not crazy. I want to see when we get closer to Monday, and I'll give you my pick on Monday night before the game, right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, here in your home for Eagles football in South Jersey. And, of course, we have football all weekend here on 97.3 ESPN FM. But, again, today, Friday, is typically what a Thursday would be on a regular week. And on a Thursday during a regular week, you have to look at the big picture. You have to look at the big situation, which is they need Micah Parsons moving up and down the line to get a pass rush. Because, let's be realistic, Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, they have not lived up to expectations in certain ways. And without Lawrence, you don't have a pass rush. You don't have the pass threat. So Parsons has to play this Joker blitzing role over the line. What was Dillard's greatest strength in college? It was not running the ball. It was pass blocking. The one thing Andre Dillard we know can do is pass block. And if he's going against a freak athlete in Micah Parsons on the edge, I have way more confidence in Dillard than I do in, let's say, Brett Toth, okay? Because I know that's what Dillard did. Go back and watch Dillard at Washington State. The one thing Dillard was really good at was stopping pass rushers on the edge. He was not great at being physical. It's not his game. That's Mailata's game. But there's nobody on the Cowboys D-line that screams physical pass rush, dominant physicality, right? It just doesn't. Because there's no DeMarcus Lawrence. There's no threat of a freak monster lining up across from Dillard. Listen, no offense to guys like Terrell Basham and Bradley Ane and Randy Gregory, who, by the way, used to be a linebacker, was turned into a defensive end. These are not physically imposing guys. You saw Azor Kamara during Hard Knocks. He's a small dude. And when you kick inside, Carlos Watkins, he's a nice player. Ozoa Adejaware, he's a nice player. They're not great defensive linemen without Lawrence. And that's why they need Micah Parsons blitzing. Because they know that even against the Eagles or the Chargers or whoever they're going to play, they got to get that extra pass rush from a fifth guy. But it's still 5-on-5. You still have a offensive lineman for every guy coming at the quarterback. You still have a guy for every person on the line. So to me, the loss of Mailata for this game, you can maybe get away with it for this game. But you can't get away with it for the other games. You can't get away with it for the Chiefs and the Panthers and the Bucks and the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders, but I can't. But seriously, the Chiefs defense has way better talent blitzing right now than the Cowboys do. The Panthers defense looks really good this year. The Buccaneers got studs up and down their defense. And then the Raiders defense has played well. So if Mailata is going to miss a game, this is the game. But that is not an excuse to lose the game. Because like I said, the Cowboys, they got injuries. And you got to beat them now. This is the opportunity to get a win under your belt, build some momentum, gain some confidence. Because the Cowboys are coming in beat up and injured. And as you saw last week, Dallas didn't exactly win the game. They were very fortunate to win that game. Against the Chargers, they didn't exactly have a game to write home about. They scored 20 points. They won 2017. And a big chunk of that game was running the ball. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott combined for 198 rushing yards last week against the Chargers team that probably just mis-game planned. You know, Brandon Staley, this is his first year as a head coach, former defensive coordinator. He miscalculated. He thought the Cowboys would come in there and sling the ball over the field. The Cowboys said, we're missing our starting right tackle and we're missing one of our best wide receivers. We're going to run the ball. And they did. And they held the ball and played a little keep away for part of the game. But guess what? In the passing game, they threw an interception. They gave a couple sacks. The Cowboys can be had. By the way, the Chargers, they put up 313 passing yards in that game against the Dallas defense. So yeah, Dallas's defense held them to 17 points, but they still gave up a lot of yards. Keep that in mind as we get closer to Monday Night Football, which you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles versus Cowboys. Of course, we got covered all day long on Monday on 97.3 ESPN Sports Bash with Mike Gill. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. And then Merrill Reese and Mike Quick on the call at night here on 97.3 ESPN FM. More details on Mailata's injury situation, go to 97.3 ESPN.com or download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We'll see what you guys have to say. We'll check in with you guys throughout the hour here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. Of course, you can direct message the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. You can text in at 609-403-0973. And, of course, you can chime in as you watch the show at 973 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter. Don't forget about my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. The biggest game of week 3 is Monday night. Eagles, Cowboys. And FanDuel Sportsbook is about to make it even better because FanDuel is giving new customers 30-1 odds on either the Cowboys or Eagles to win. That means you can win $150 on a $5 bet. Offers like this are just one of the many reasons I love betting football on FanDuel Sportsbook. Their app is simple to use with unique, fun bet types like same-game parlays and always-on promotions to let you get more action out of every game day. FanDuel is sports betting made simple, and they're always hooking you up with great offers. Just sign up with promo code Hennig this week before Dallas versus Philadelphia, and you could win $150 on a $5 bet. Remember to use my promo code Hennig when you sign up on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Must be 21 or older to play and present in New Jersey. New users only. $10 first deposit required. Must wager in designated offer market. Max bonus $150. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Of course, we will get to you a full preview of the football weekend. And of course, tomorrow is UFC 266, 2 title belts on the line. So we got a lot to cover to get in on all of this. Of course, Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein. With all 4 Philly sports teams vying for the headlines, which team will steal the show? The Eagles head to Dallas for a Monday night matchup. Eagles Hall of Fame receiver and current radio broadcaster Mike Quick checks in to talk birds. The sportsbook consigliere Dave Sharapan calls in from Vegas with his 6-pack of picks. Phillies, Flyers, Sixers talk and more. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN and the mobile app.
This week's featured bet is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Atlantic City. Saturday's college football top 25 matchup. I'm taking Arkansas plus 4.5 versus Texas A&M. Bet all the action in style at FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. The NFL is here, and FanDuel Sportsbook wants you to get the most out of every game day. That's why they're giving everyone a $10 risk-free bet every week. All you have to do is bet a same-game parlay with 3 legs or more, and if your bet doesn't win, FanDuel will pay you back up to $10. Offers like this are just one of the many reasons I love betting football on FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app in America. New to FanDuel Sportsbook, you can also claim 30-1 odds on either team to win, Philadelphia at Dallas. Just sign up with promo code Hennig, and if your first bet loses, you get up to $1,000 back in site credit. That's promo code Hennig when you sign up on FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older to play and present in New Jersey. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Same game parlay available for multiple sports in all states on mobile or web. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City, where you can also direct message the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. Whether listening in your car, on the radio, on the phone, through the app, online, you're watching the show, you're listening to the show. We appreciate all of you guys on board the show here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you live in the Matt Blatt Kia studios. We will get to your messages as we always do throughout the show. Of course, you can chime in, DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You can text in 609-403-0973. And of course, we are live on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Jeff chimes in watching the show on YouTube, says, how long is Mailata out for? The Eagles have not officially announced Mailata being out. He is currently just a DNP at practice with the knee injury. Now, it was Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network who, the first I saw, okay, first to report that Mailata won't play Monday night. Now, the further report went on to say that Mailata's absence shouldn't be a long-term thing, though. That's what Garafolo reported. So, think about it like this. Mailata is probably going to miss Monday, Jeff. After that, I think it's going to be on a week-to-week basis. Now, an MCL sprain, depending on the degree of the sprain, most orthopedic doctors, okay, and I mentioned this in the article at 97.3 ESPN.com, doctors say that depending on the severity of the injury, it typically takes you about 6 weeks to fully recover. Now, I don't think he's going to miss 6 weeks, all right, because it sounds like him missing Monday night is more of a being hyperly cautious with a man who's 6'8" and 360 to 80 pounds than it is really just sitting there saying, overtly, he's out indefinitely. So it seems like the Mailata injury is more of a short-term than a long-term injury, Jeff. But it's something to still keep an eye on because however amount of time Mailata does miss, I think it puts the Eagles in a predicament. Because, as I said before, the Cowboys are one thing. I think you can get away with it for a week. But if you are missing him for the Chiefs and the Panthers and the Bucks, then it gets messy. Because remember, you're also without Brandon Graham for an indefinite amount of time as well. At minimum 3 weeks, potentially 8 weeks, depending on what you think about what Lane Johnson said this week. Lane Johnson thinks that Brooks is going to be out for a while. So, plus, it's Jack Driscoll is still on the injured reserve. Now, he can come off the injured reserve after this weekend, but you are without your starting right guard, you're without your starting left tackle, and you're going to be, at least for one more game at minimum, without your best backup offensive lineman in Jack Driscoll. So to me, I look at the situation as you can get away with this for one more week. But after this week's game, Chiefs, Panthers, Bucks all present great problems to deal with and figure out for the Eagles' offensive line. So to me, you got to get Driscoll back. If you can get Mailata back, I feel a lot better going into those Chiefs, Panthers, Bucks games. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to win those games. I'm just saying I feel better about those games, if you know what I mean. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM here on Game Night, being presented by FanDuel Sportsbook over at Bally's in Atlantic City. Bet all the action inside this football season at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook just off the boardwalk at Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973. Texter chimes in, says, this is a huge game for the Eagles, a division game that will matter when we get to week 18. With the schedule being what it is coming up, I'd almost say this is a must win. I think it's completely fair to call it a must win, Texter. I don't know your name, so I'm just going to call you Texter because you leave your name, but I happen to agree with you. I think that you don't want to over or undersell a situation. Like I said, with the schedule coming up, you have to think that this is a game that if you don't win, as I said, you may not win again until Halloween. That Lions game is almost a guaranteed win if you play at your capability. But that's the other side of the problem with the Eagles right now, okay? The Eagles are the one team in the NFL that we're not 100% sure who they are. The other team that we don't know who they are is the Cowboys. These are both teams that looked completely different from week 1 to week 2. In week 1, the Cowboys were a high-flying, high-powered offense, chucking the ball, almost beating the Bucks in Tampa. Week 2, they were a team that threw interception, ran the ball a lot, tried to play keep away from the Chargers, and won on a field goal because Mike McCarthy's horrible at clock management. So we don't know who the Cowboys are. But on the flip side, who are the Eagles really? In week 1, you go down to Atlanta, the first game for the head coach, great game plan, great offensive and defensive execution. The quarterback goes out there, has a great game. Everything looks good. Week 2, the offense doesn't seem to be ever able to get on track except for that big play to Watkins. You wasted on the goal line. Sirianni calls a horrible game. The defense does their job, holds the 49ers to 17 points, but they lose because their offense couldn't get out of their way. Right now, the only thing I know about the Eagles and the Cowboys is the Eagles' defense is better than the Cowboys' defense. And what I know for sure is the Cowboys have injuries at key positions that the Eagles should take advantage of. Will they take advantage of? I have no idea. We're going to find out Monday night what Sirianni and Gannon are made of. And I think the Eagles can do a better job defensively against the Cowboys than the Rams did. Because what I've seen from Gannon for 2 weeks this season is a defensive coordinator who limits teams and takes them out of their comfort zone. It's not a pure bend don't break defense, but let me tell you something. They've done a very good job this year at limiting teams. They did not let teams win the game each and every down. Gannon forces teams so far this year to go above and beyond to get down the field. And when he sees that you're doing something well against him, he adjusts. To me, that's a big deal. And I think it's something that I know is very doable against the Cowboys, because the Chargers team that allowed 16 points to Washington and 20 points to the Cowboys, they're a good defense, and so are the Eagles. In fact, the Eagles have allowed less points this year than the team that just lost to the Cowboys. That's right. The Philadelphia Eagles defense has allowed a total of 23 points. The Chargers, who the Cowboys just beat, have allowed a total of 36 points. I think it's fair to say that I know who the Eagles defense is, but I don't know who the offense is. That's a big thing to keep an eye on as we get closer to Monday Night Football. And of course, you can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Josh Hennig hanging out with you at Josh Hennig on Twitter here on a Football Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. A little news updates from around the NFL to catch you guys up on before we get to the weekend picks and previews on the weekend right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Carson Wentz did practice today. Now, that is not a guarantee that he's going to play this weekend, but it is an interesting conversation point, because if Wentz is playing injured and it's those ankles are as bad as people think it is, apparently he has a high ankle sprain on the right foot and a low ankle sprain on the left foot. What are the odds of that, right? Two completely different sprains of ankles. Now they got to go on the road to Tennessee to play a Titans team that just came off a huge win in Seattle. So keep an eye on the Wentz and Colts injury situation over the weekend. Remember, the Colts are already down a guy. That's why Brett Hundley is on the practice squad. Hundley's taking a lot of first-team reps this week. It was not Jacob Eason, even though Jacob Eason was supposed to be the backup quarterback. So you got to wonder, do the Colts call up Hundley on game day, make him the backup? And if Wentz gets injured again, how does Hundley do against the Titans? Titans defense is not very good, by the way, this year, which is very strange. I was expecting way more from their defense this year, but they have been completely they're getting eaten alive in some of these games. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, it's one thing to say that you thought that Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray could, score points. It's another thing to give up 38 points to the Cardinals and 30 points to Seattle and be 1-1. This Titans team is so weird to me. Some other news around the NFL. Antonio Brown is expected to miss week 3 against the Rams. Now, this is because Antonio Brown has tested positive for COVID. So it's not a close contact situation. He is vaccinated. So the rules are you have to have 2 consecutive negative tests. But it's looking like that this is not going to be a Antonio Brown game, as we talked about with Andy McNamara last night here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. This might be a game that if you're in fantasy, you want to ride Rob Gronkowski hard, because we know Brady likes to target who he's comfortable with. And no Antonio Brown means target shares are going somewhere else. So that could be Gronk, that could be Scotty Miller, that could be Chris Godwin, that could be a lot of other guys bouncing around, right? So that is something to keep an eye on moving forward. Again, I think that when it comes to this Sunday's games, I personally think that Bucks-Rams game is going to be a shootout. What is the line on that again? I have it written down over here. See, Bucks-Rams, 55.5. I'll tell you guys right now, it's no high. I'll go over that. I mean, I think it's going to be like a 30-35 kind of game. We know the Bucks defense. The Bucks defense is talented, but they're not elite enough to stop the Rams, okay? The Bucks have good pass rushers, but they can be had on the back end. Their secondary is not elite, whereas their front defensive pass rush and their linebackers are very good. Because think about it this way. You have a Bucks team that allowed 25 points to the Falcons. Remember, the Falcons only scored 6 points in the Eagles and 29 points to the Cowboys. So you don't think that the Rams can't get the same number? By the way, the Rams are actually healthier at this point than the Cowboys are, or as healthy at least. Remember, there was no Zach Martin in that game for the Cowboys. So I would assume that that's going to be a shootout between the Rams and the Bucks. By the way, with our second game of our triple header here on 97.3 ESPN FM. This Sunday, we have Chargers versus Chiefs at 1 p.m., followed by Tampa at Los Angeles Rams at around the 4:25 is the kickoff. And then Sunday football is Packers versus 49ers here on your home. Not just for Eagles football, but all football here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Let's squeeze in one more message before we hit the break and we get to the preview and pick segments. I love to hear from you guys. Every day we are on here, 97.3 ESPN FM. We got Tom from Margate, also known as Margate Nation. Or is that Margation? Yeah, Tom. I know who Tom is. Good to hear from you, Tom. Tom texts the show often. He says, hey, Josh, my big question for you. If you could choose, would you want the Phillies or the Eagles in the postseason? I would pick Phillies. That's interesting because the verbiage you used is who would I want in the postseason? See, you're not asking me what I think is going to happen. You're asking me who I want in the postseason. So I would have to go. At this point, I would personally go with the Eagles because I would like to see Jalen Hurts get some postseason action, get some postseason practice. Okay, well, not practice, but get some reps in the postseason. I think that this Eagles team would be very interesting if they got in the playoffs. If the team that won in Atlanta week 1 found its way the rest of the year, I really like how that could play out. Now, it's not that I'm anti-Phillies. I love the Phillies. I'm a Phillies guy, but there's a part of me that's so exasperated with this team that I just don't know how excited I would be considering the fact that if the Phillies got to the postseason, I think they're probably getting run out of town. Because think about it. If you're winning the division, let's say, all right, you don't have to deal with the wild card. Cool. But think about who you got to face then. The Dodgers right now are 1 game behind the Giants. If you got to face the Dodgers in the divisional round of the playoffs, yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence the Phillies winning that series. If you got to play a team like, let's say, the Reds, well, they've already beaten you this year. The Cardinals, they're pretty darn good. They're on a hot streak. Brewers, their pitching staff is dangerous. Who in the playoffs do you really have confidence they're going to beat? Football, it's any given Sunday, right? Football, it's you never know what can happen. Baseball, there's no any given Sunday with baseball. It's you're either good or you're not good enough to win. And when I look at the other teams in the National League, if the Phillies were to get in via winning the division, I don't believe that they could beat the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Giants, or the Dodgers in a series in the divisional round. The Reds, maybe, but right now the Reds are what? They're 6 games behind the Cardinals in the wild card right now. And that's the other thing. To me, I think it still comes down to the Phillies. They need to win the division. They're 2 games behind the Braves, but they're 5 games behind the Cardinals. I just don't think the Phillies are going to win unless they win the division. And I just don't have a lot of faith in them beating these other teams. And it's not that the Cardinals are unbeatable, but I think right now the Cardinals offense is scary good. And I don't know if the Phillies overall pitching staff has what it takes to deal with that Cardinals offense. Think about it this way. the Arizona Cardinals, sorry, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals play the NFL. The St. Louis Cardinals, who we're talking about here, they haven't scored as many runs as the Phillies this year, but they've allowed way less runs this year. It's the Cardinals' offense combined with their pitching staff. Their plus 21 run differential. I don't think that the Phillies could beat them in a series. I don't think there's anybody in the National League who would make the postseason that the Phillies could beat in a series. In fact, the Cardinals, of all the teams I'm talking about, they're the only team that has scored less runs than the Phillies. The Braves, the Reds, the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Giants, they've all scored more runs than the Phillies. By the way, I'm not mentioning the Padres. I think they're cooked. I think that team is just DOA at this point. All right, we'll wrap up the show. Coming up the other side, get you some thoughts and picks for the weekend. College football week 4, NFL weekend week 3, UFC 266 tomorrow night. All coming up next here on Game Night with yours truly, Josh Hennig, 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea City.
Listen this Saturday to Notre Dame football on 97.3 ESPN.
Hi, Notre Dame fans. This is Ryan Harris. Join me, Paul Burmeister, and Tony Simeone this Saturday in the Windy City of Chicago as the Irish battle the Wisconsin Badgers in the Shamrock Series at Soldier Field. And you can tune in right here on your home for Notre Dame football.
Listen every Saturday as the Fighting Irish take on the nation's best football programs. It's Notre Dame football on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at noon.
Excludes prior sales. See dealer for details. At Bennett Chevrolet, your vehicle will never be worth more than it is this month. That's a fact. Bennett will pay you top dollar on the spot and will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. No sales pressure, just top dollar for your trade. In fact, this month only, Bennett will pay you a minimum $8,000 for your trade. Let me repeat. Bennett will pay you a minimum $8,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle on our lot. No matter the condition or miles, even if your trade's a total wreck, it's worth $8,000 this month only. Imagine how much more we'll pay for a good quality trade-in. Get to Bennett Chevy and you could drive away in a newer vehicle with the same or even lower payments than you're making on your old vehicle. Plus, at Bennett, we have non-commissioned sales folks who are paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So there's never any sales pressure and never any need to negotiate. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Featured bet is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Atlantic City. Saturday's college football top 25 matchup. I'm taking Arkansas plus 4.5 versus Texas A&M. Bet all the action in style at FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, FM 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live as always on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. By the way, Tom from Margate followed up on his text. He says, Josh, I like your analysis. I don't agree, but thank you. Have a great weekend. That's from Tom in Margate. Hey, Tom, listen, listen, it would be awesome if the Phillies made the postseason for the first time in a decade. But when a team makes the postseason, for me at least, I like them to have a chance to win. That's just me. All right, let's get some previews, some more breakdowns for the weekend here. First, really quick, I'll start with UFC 266 because I won't be on the air tomorrow. We got Notre Dame football versus Wisconsin following Billy Schwein in the locker room. So that's actually the way it breaks down is Faith on the Field at 9 a.m. with Rob Motti, Billy Schwein in the locker room here on 97.3 every Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. 12 p.m. tomorrow, Notre Dame, Wisconsin will be on the air, followed by the Yankees versus Red Sox. And then the nightcap game is Oklahoma and West Virginia tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. So UFC talk, we'll squeeze in really quick right here. So here's the deal. I've been telling people this week two things specifically about the fights tomorrow. First of all, don't be the person who makes a bet because you feel like you got to get action, okay? Don't be that person. To me, the Nick Diaz-Robbie Lawler fight is one of the biggest fights of the weekend. But I have zero clue how that's going to play out. None. Nada. Zilch. I think that you have two fighters who are coming in completely different situations. Diaz came in and wanted to move the fight to middleweight. He hasn't fought in several years. Robbie Lawler, he seems indifferent about the fight as well. So just go and enjoy that fight. Don't get too bent out of shape over it. Volkanovski versus Ortega. This is going to be a fight that somebody wins emotionally, okay? These two guys did not get along in The Ultimate Fighter. According to reports, Ortega was showing up for tapings and coaching and for all the things went with the show late every single day. Volkanovski is really ticked off. But can Volkanovski keep his emotions in check to beat this guy? He is the defending champion, Volkanovski. Meanwhile, Valentina Shevchenko is arguably the second best women's fighter on the planet, but Lauren Murphy is going to give her a fight. I don't think Shevchenko is going to dominate this fight so aggressively the way she did Jessica Andrade. Okay, I think that Murphy, because she is more well-rounded than Andrade is, I think Shevchenko is going to have to feel her out a little bit, and she may have to do a little more work than she did in the Andrade fight to beat her. So I'll have a full breakdown of the UFC options for your better bets for the weekend over at 973ESPN.com a little bit later tonight. And then the rest of the weekend, you heard my one pick. I would like Arkansas a lot. I think that this team, they're averaging 260 rushing yards a game. Texas A&M has not shown the ability to stop them in the rushing game. Okay, I think it's very obvious that this team, Arkansas, can exert their will. They ran over 300 yards on Texas a couple weeks ago. Okay, so when I look at this Arkansas Texas A&M game, the two things that stand out to me are, one, Arkansas is an underdog. They're 7-3 against the spread. I don't think they should be an underdog. Honestly, I think this should probably be a pick'em game. But listen, if you want to throw some money down, I understand. Go for it. You know, like I said, this Arkansas team is going to run the ball, and I don't think Texas A&M can stop them. Not at all. The under 46.5 also looks very appealing as well. But to me, the bigger appeal is plus 4.5 on the spread with that game. Also, North Carolina State at home, 10.5. I really like that number. Clemson, this is their first true road game. Devin Leary and NC State have played very well when he's on the field. Clemson doesn't have an identity. I think Clemson can still win the game, but 10.5 is too big of a number. I think that the odds makers and the line makers are trying to manipulate certain betting demographics, because here's the number to keep an eye on. It's not 10.5. It's minus 102. I told you guys 4. That's the number you look at. Clemson is not the favorite in this game on the spread. North Carolina is plus 10.5. That's minus 120. The odds makers are manipulating you. They're telling you that, oh, Clemson's 10.5 point favorite. What they're really telling you is the favorite is actually North Carolina State to cover the 10.5. The more you know. Josh Hennig, GameNight. Have a great weekend. Article will be on the website tonight.
Looking for insider info, top football